Okay, let's start having conversation on YouTube movie. Thank you for your precious time, Marco and JaQuan. Yeah, and for the first time, I want to ask you introduce by yourself. And today I want to ask about AizenFlow. Marco and JaQuan are founder of AizenFlow. So could you explain about yourself and your company?
Okay. So hi, I'm Marco, co-founder and CEO of AizenFlow. So a little bit about me. I have a logistics background. So I think about, trucks, how stuff moves. Um, I love efficiency and like analytics and like, getting to the to the problem of using like data and science. I love that.
Cool.
Because I feel like these days everybody wants to just say opinions, but they don't back it up with any data. So I really like that. I think it annoys people sometimes that I do that, but it's good because it gives you a more secure path. Um, so I also, what else do you want me to talk about? Like what I like doing on my days off or any hobbies? Okay, so I like cooking also, but I like cooking not so much because of the taste of food. I do like the taste of food, but since I used to be overweight when I was young, I like controlling the nutrition within the food. So I'll make like these high protein foods, or I'll put like a bunch of vegetables in there because I know it's good for you. Um, so I'm always willing to kind of sacrifice taste a little bit, just if it's more nutritious for you. So I enjoy doing that a lot. And then it's also a challenge when I open the fridge and nothing makes sense, but I'll make sense of the stuff that's in there. Like I'll combine things, and my family looks like that's so weird. But then I give it to them, and they're like, "Ah, that's pretty good." I was like, "I know," because you're just like pick with stuff. Um, what else? I enjoy reading a lot because I know, like for example, when you read biographies, I probably will never talk to Benjamin Franklin because he already passed away. But when you read their books, it's like you're speaking to them. Maybe not like back and forth, but at least you're getting into the way they think. And I think that's super useful because you can use all these really smart people to build off their mistakes and avoid those pitfalls. And you do your own thing. So that's really cool. So I think that's something that I recommend to other people. Read about other people's lives. Um, what else? What else? What else? I enjoy meaningful relationships. So I figured out that now that I'm a little older, a very powerful thing is not so much what you do, it's what you don't do. So saying no to things that aren't won't be meaningful in the future is good because now you can focus on the stuff that would actually matter. And that includes like when I talk to JaQuan, he's like super meaningful to me. So I enjoy spending time with him. I enjoy working with him. And that's something really valuable, I think, and co-founders are just relationships in general. Find people that will help you grow long term. And that's yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Marco, I didn't know you are a little chubby. And
Yeah.
when I was 10 years old, I was a huge, I was big, very big.
Yeah.
My weight is adding 30 kilograms, or 13 kilograms heavier than now. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was very surprised. You were a little chubby. I can't believe it. You are very
I
thin
was
now. Yeah,
I was very chubby. Yeah. I
yeah,
used to just play video games. I would eat chips, and that was my life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Similar situation.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But Jacob, could you introduce yourself too?
Yes, so I'm JaQuan, also co-founder and CMO of AizenFlow. I have like over, gosh, 5, 6 years of digital marketing experience as like a freelancer. I I once ran my own agency. Uh, what, let's see, back in April of this year, I actually stopped that so I can go full time on AizenFlow. I
Okay.
mostly focused on like real estate marketing. Uh, let's see, I was in the U.S. Army as a cavalry scout for I think a little over 3 years, and ended up getting medically discharged. I was a real estate agent, and I sucked at it. Absolutely, like so, like two houses. So I really sucked. Um, let's see. Uh, on my days, I guess when I'm not working on AizenFlow, I'm typically spending time with my wife and kids, or like Marco, I like to read books. I'm actually listening to Winston Churchill's biography right now. It's very boring, but there's like these really really good nuggets in them, and it's actually really really cool listening to Winston Churchill before he was the prime minister of Great Britain. You really don't hear that much about him before that. So this biography kind of goes into his past when he was younger. So it's really cool. A lot of things that slightly resonate to me. Um, beyond that, uh, uh, beyond again that's kickboxing. I got back into kickboxing recently, and I play flag football. But besides all that, it's just rise and flow in the family.
Yeah.
I see. But I want to ask you one question, JaQuan. How
Hmm.
did you meet Marco for the first time?
So I actually met Marco. Marco, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was January or February. I met him at this co-working space we work out of
Oh, I see.
called Sandbox Ventures. And I originally went in there with my real estate marketing agency. And that's what I was kind of, that was my HQ. And then we had the hackathon. And once we did the hackathon and we saw that we had this business idea, you know, that's 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 how this whole thing started. But yeah, I actually
Okay.
met Marco talking about, I think, marketing. I think it was like the book Sell
So
Like Crazy. Yeah,
yeah, sales funnels. So
there you go.
I had another company that was a tea company. Um, and I was asking him, peppering with a bunch of questions like, "Hey Jay, how do you make money online? How do you do this? How do you do this?" And he just looked at me. And I was like, "Okay." And then he started like teaching me, and like it was pretty cool. And we kind of clicked when we
Yeah,
started talking to each other. But I felt like I was interrupting his work, so I was like, "Okay, Jay, thank you. I'll go back to my spot."
he
So
says
then,
that now, and now all I do is interrupt his work. So
yeah.
I see. But I want to ask you, Marco, why? Okay, I want to ask you, Jacob, why did you decide to focus on Ivan work with Marco?
well, honestly, it's simply because I was looking at more or less the future, like real estate marketing. Again, I'm good at digital marketing. I don't mind it. I don't like the agency work. I typically didn't like working with clients. Um, and there was a lot of things I couldn't control. My
Okay.
clients more or less controlled me.
Yeah.
My The projects controlled me, and so I'm looking at AizenFlow, and I'm like, okay, it already has legs. We already had verbal commitments for investments, so it just made more sense. And so, yeah, no, it was actually an easy choice. And plus, again, it was with Marco, and I actually let Marco know. It's like, hey, if so long as you do it with me, I'll do this. And so,
Thank you for sharing. How do you feel? And Marco, why did you decide to focus on Ivan work with Jacob?
Well, a funny story. Jay, so this idea was born out of a hackathon,
Okay.
and we were doing this event, and then Jay told me, "Hey Marco, what are you gonna do on Saturday?" And
Okay.
I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "Come to the hackathon with
Nothing.
me," and I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I went, and that's where the idea was born. So I just went because he told me to go, and then it kind of got traction, and it became a company. So yeah, I mean, it was, and then now we've been, since we already work well together, and we kind of build the idea together, or not kind of, we did build the idea together, get together. I mean, it kind of just like, it was one of those things where you really don't think too much about it. It just feels good, and then you just keep advancing, and you
Okay.
see the progress. And I saw that he was putting an immense amount of effort and input, and I was doing the same. So it's kind of like that trust you build sometimes with partners. I don't know if you had a partner in your other ventures, Daisho, but it's this thing you just kind of you sense it, and you just kind of go with it, and it just works. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have many partners and many friends.
Okay.
I couldn't build a business. I started my business, startup business 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, but I couldn't find a good partner. I cannot sell our company to listed company. So it's a very important thing to try to build something with some partners and make good relationships. I believe that it's very difficult for us to make good relationship if we don't try to do something with each other. It's very important thing to make relationship to do something with each other. I believe it. Yeah. Okay. And I want to ask you, Marco. Marco, what problem does your team try to fix now?
Okay. So the problem we're solving right now is that trucking companies, they still go through this really manual process of you know getting quotes from their shipping customers. The issue is they're so manual. 90% of them, in fact, still use email, text, calls. So that incurs a lot of errors and inefficiencies, and that translates to the quotes. 50% of those quotes to be lost. So whatever revenue the trucking company was making, they could have doubled it that same year, but because of the lack of automation in the processes, they can't do that. So the goal of AizenFlow is to first develop a really intuitive quoting software so companies can give that quick service to customers. Um, but we figured out, funny thing, that the quoting process is only a symptom. The real issue is that once the companies are big enough, then there's divisions within the company. There's sales, there's operations, there's accounting, and each division is trying to cover their own, or they have their own goals. So salesmen always try and promise the moon and the stars to everybody, right? Operations tries to make it happen. And then accounting, they're like, how are we going to pay for all this? So they're all doing their own, they have their own metrics, and they're not unified. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give visibility to all divisions. So as they're building quotes and services, everybody, at least, not that they're together in every single meeting, but the customer, or the customer facing people, have the guardrails and the visibility from the other two divisions, so they can make smarter decisions real time, and they can execute better on all these processes, and close more quotes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you for telling me. And Marco, why did you choose fix this problem? Did you notice some problem when you sell you tea product or something?
um I didn't. So I used to. So there, it was a different issue, but in the hackathon, uh I do love logistics. I mean, I've worked.
Okay,
That's what I studied. I studied operations, supply chain. I worked
I
for two
see.
companies in the logistics field, for a trucking company, and also for GE Healthcare. It's a
Okay,
division that sells the MRI machines, the little cufflinks for the hospitals, so they would do installations. So I've always loved logistics. I have a passion for it. So in this hackathon, the goal was to build a company in 36 hours, and we did, but we focused on drivers and driver efficiency. So our lead investor, he didn't we didn't win, but he liked our essence, I guess, or our spirit, or like our capabilities. So we
I
followed
see.
up with this investor, and he eventually told us the industry problem, because he's an influential person in logistics here in the area, and he understands problems in logistics very well, because he grew a company from zero to a really large fleet of 140 trucks. So he told us the issue, and we actually did an analysis, and we figured out that that was an issue industry wide. So then we started, building around that. But now we're diving even deeper in it, and noticing that there's like the coding issue, like I said, is not it's a symptom of an actual issue, which is the internal communication. But the end goal of us is to build a uncentralized carrier network. So the goal is to build these really attractive, sticky products for these trucking companies. So eventually we get so many trucking companies onboarded that they can leverage each other to do loads for each other. So you can have one in Dallas, one in San Francisco, and then another one in India. And the customer, they just interacted with the one in Dallas, but the one in Dallas sent the load to the one in San Francisco. The one in San Francisco, connects to the one in India, but the customer, all they saw was that the first carrier sent it. But we would vet all the carriers, all the people that are on the platform. So they're guaranteed that it's going to be good service. So now all these small to medium companies can leverage each other so they can compete against FedEx, against UPS, against Amazon, all these larger companies that have more assets and more technology. So that's the goal.
Thank you for sharing your idea, and I understand. When you try to fix some problem with your team, um, how do you communicate with each other? I want to know when you think about something with your team, how do you communicate with each other, Marco and Jacob?
So I think it's a very Socratic approach. It's not like, although my tag says CEO, it's not like I'm this king and like you will listen to me everything I say. No, it's not like that. It's more like I'll have a question for Jay or for Ian,
Okay.
our other co-founder. Like, hey, what do you think about this? And then they think about it and they're like, well, and we'll start a conversation between all of us because a lot of the times I need we need all three of us to get together because everybody has their own expertise. Like I'm over here thinking about funding, I'm thinking about, you know, the product, and Jay is thinking, okay, well, what's the problem in the industry? How do these customers think? What do these customers do? And then Ian is over, he's an engineer, so he's building it. So it's like us three, we're going in unison and we feed off each other. So we're like steering the way together. Uh, so we actually don't um, dictate or do any, and then we actually vote. Like when I might have ideas sometimes, and Jay and Ian are like, Marco, that is a terrible idea. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We don't do it. That's fine. Like I don't force it upon them because they're looking out for the best interest of the company, and so am I. So sometimes they say that I have what do they say? They say I sell the sizzle. So I'm like super optimistic. Yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do all this stuff. And they're like, Marco, come here, sit down, sit down, sit down. Look, this is what's up. And then they tell me and they talk to me and they put some sense into me. And I'm like, okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah. So that's more or less how the dynamic works between us three. Yeah.
I like to add, I wouldn't say it's necessarily everything, right? Everything, when it comes to selling the sizzle, because I very much align with Marco and the fact that we're both aspirational.
Okay.
It's just when Ian is the guy that levels us out because he tells us what's actually possible with the resources we have today versus what we can do later on. And that's actually what's really good about Ian is that he knows how to. He doesn't really deny us. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen him like actually state our idea wouldn't work. He just breaks it down to the point where we're like, oh, okay, that's something we probably can't do right now. And so he doesn't really just knock it. He just so like we have a really good dynamic as a team.
Mm.
Um, and of course, I personally feel as though the titles that we have are more formalities, whereas the actual relationship between the what my wife likes to call us three musketeers is like really, really, tight. So
Yeah.
I see. Thank you for sharing. All three members are different type of people. Yeah, probably my role is similar, Marco. Every time I want to do this type of thing, but wait. Every member stopped me when I
Okay.
started my company. Yeah, our time and our resources is limited. So for the first time, it's necessary to focus on something. After that, let's do some another thing. Yeah, we talk with each other many times. I remember. Yeah. Okay. Uh, I see. And I could ask what I want to ask you, but do you want some topic that you want to talk in this YouTube movie?
Not that I could think of. Maybe Marco, you have something.
I'm
You have?
curious. I'm curious how this startup investor thing works in Japan. Is it similar or is it different?
Uh, it's a very similar process
Okay.
investing in startups, but there are some different points. I wanna tell these different points.
Okay.
First, um, in the US, investors focusing on special professional field. Some investors focusing on biography, some investor focusing on logistics or something. But
Okay.
in Japan, Japanese investors are very general, not focusing one.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting.
very different.
Why is that? Because they're just
I
they
think there are two reasons. First, Japanese education, we learn in the university, uh, we learn a lot of things, not focusing one. Uh,
okay.
and second, the number of startups is very limited in Japan. In the US, there are many startups and there are many investors, so they can opportunity to invest in typical field. But
Ah,
if the startup number is very limited, we have to invest generally. This is the difference. Yeah,
oh, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
And last, I want to tell you, most of the money investing in startup in the US is from institutional money, entity money. But in Japan, most of the money investing in Japanese startup is from some company, some business company, corporate venture capital is main money. So it's a little different. Uh, the type of money, the characteristics of money. So I understand since I came here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Uh, do you have some questions, or do you have some what you want to talk in this movie?
Mm, no, I think you covered it in all the questions you have for us.
Yes, I
'Cause-
could ask you all questions.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have some last message to audience, mainly Japanese investors?
Mm, I think that for Japanese investors, it would be that the cool thing about investing in the startup world is that like we know you're busy, we know you're doing other stuff, but at least I think investing adds like spice to your life because you realize all the problems we have and you're like, oh, it's nice that you're separated from them. So when you do it, you get like a little glimpse into what's going on without actually having to worry about the
Yeah,
day to day. but it's still exciting because you're like you maybe you look forward to every week or every 2 weeks to talk to the founder because you just like it's like a soap opera or like a drama. It's like what happened, man? We lost this guy, we lost this guy, but then we got this, then we got this, and we got this revenue. So you're like, oh yeah, yeah. So it's exciting. So it's like you're getting a first row seat to a movie almost of the start. And it could be tragic at days, it could be a comedy. But at the end of it, it's a really good film. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good idea investing in some startup like your startup. It's
Mhm.
very dramatic than watching a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So get your popcorn ready.
Yes. If you are interested in investing in startup, please contact me. Or if you want to invest in Ivan please contact Marco or Jacob. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for your last message. I
Yeah.
think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.